I was thinking about this with names. It had always been a really big interest of me, baby names especially. I always had a long list about names I really like and I would like to use on my children and in future and so on. The funny thing is that they have never been names I actually used when I got pregnant or, when I had the baby. It's all suddenly they're just completely gone. I don't know why. And as all things when you have children, you can't really affect everything. It's not really in your power. Like I given my children their names. It's just my oldest who her father gave her one of her names. The other children, other three, I given them all their names. Even if Ro is the one that most people have been involved in it, it's actually just Ro and her last name Theresia, which I have been completely from me. The other three are not really from me, but I'm gonna get back to that in another post. But anyway, this is names. Sometimes you children don't like the names, and I think that's quite common. That you period of times don't like your name. I didn't like my name Katarina for a very long time, and now I'm okay with it. But my other kids, both the oldest two, have during period of times want to change their names, and I think they're actually going to do that. I'm not quite sure, but not change their first name, but add extra names. And my oldest wanted to add Francis, which surprised me. It has to do with her family on the father's side, but still, because it's gender-neutral name, or even for me, I think it's a little bit more of a boy name for me. But well, it works for both genders. And for Ro, I didn't have any of the names I've been even thinking about have been gender neutral, so that was kind of new to me. And then my next oldest came and told me that it wanted to switch its name to Dylan, and I was like, okay. It was also a complete surprise, but it's the point with changing that name would be changing into that name would be because it's gender neutral, and that child doesn't identify as either boy or girl. So Dylan would fit really well, fit very well. So even though I put so much time and effort finding right names for my children, they don't end up with names I picked for them in the end. And the same thing, you often put a lot of effort to make the first name match the last name. And then they might switch into the other parent's name if they have separate names, or maybe they switch to another name in the family, or they get married and switch to a husband or wife's name, or find another name and so on. So you really never know, and I think that's quite interesting because it's such a important part of your of what you show other people. It's people see your style and how you look and so on, and also how you talk and things like that. But after that, often the name is what people are judging you by, and it's like some names are more common in certain groups of people, and it's also like you can both choose a name to indicate that you belong to that group, and you can also choose a name that indicates that you don't belong to the group you actually do belong to in society. But you can try to avoid some certain names, and sure, there are names that are more common among people in prison, for example. Why? I have no idea. There are names that are more common among artists, and especially people who are into classic music or working as classic musicians. I don't know why, but and often those names are names I had since birth. So maybe it's something like, if you want your child to grow up to a certain person, not to end up in prison, of course, but when it comes to become a musician or things like that, maybe you pick a name that actually works that way. And sometimes I wonder what the names I picked for my children indicates and says about me, because the first child had a name that is very common and very classic and very international. So, and that was the idea with it, because I was 18 years old. I had a child with a man from Africa, and I know the child would stand out in all other ways, so the name was neutral to me. Well, or it wasn't neutral because I really liked it, but it's more neutral to people around me. And also the second name is also, very classic and very a name that works in all situations, I think. Rose doing, I don't know what here. And the next child got a name that in that time was very, very unusual, but got a 2. At the same time also classical, and have been a lot of history in Sweden. It was name, it been a name of a goddess and also of a queen. And the other 2 names are really long, Ingrid and Elizabeth, and those are also very classic queen names. So a short first name and 2 longer second names. And then I had Tella, and Tella, when she got it, that was only 8 girls who called Tella in Sweden. Now I think it's 32 or something like that, but it's extremely unusual, as you can hear. And also her first name, second name, Maria, is the most common name in the world. So you go from one extreme to the other extreme. And also it's called Isolde as a last name, and it was also because it's the name of a princess, and I really, really liked it. So that's a little bit of a history about my older children's names, and but actually might end up with children with other names in the outfit.